Welcome to the Cosmic Intelligence Briefing with Tom Garland. We explore the energetic, cultural, and astrological patterns that shape our collective experience. Logic leads us, light guides us, and community connects us on this journey of deeper patterns and higher perspective. Tom Garland is a metaphysical advisor, astrologer, and systems thinker. His work integrates Western and Vedic astrology with technology, economics, and philosophy. Each month, Tom offers an in-depth cosmic intelligence briefing, exploring patterns that shape our world. We embrace two paths: logic, focusing on reason, systems, and evidence, and light, rooted in intuition, symbolism, and energy. All perspectives are welcome in this conversation. Engage with curiosity, share observations, and respect all ideas in the chat. This video is produced in partnership with the Academy of Logic and Light, which creates accessible content to bridge logic and light. Co-host Julie Christine supports the live experience as community liaison, gathering your questions and themes throughout the video. We believe in two paths, one conversation where all perspectives are welcome. We bridge logic and light, building community and expanding consciousness together. Enjoy the show, and feel free to share your questions and where you're watching from in the chat.
Hello, and welcome to our new front end of our series, the Cosmic Intelligence Briefing. We are here with you live. I'm Julie. I'm here in Salt Lake City, and Tom is visiting you guys from the West Coast.
Yeah, Grants Pass. That was a snazzy intro.
Thanks. I've been working hard on these. I am so excited for today's episode. I have sent out your newsletter to a couple of people today that I hope are watching. I'm really excited to dive right into it. So I'm going to pull it up on my phone so I can follow along with you.
Yeah, I might actually pull from it myself. So
oh, I wanted to know.
I wrote all of it back in like mid-April, so it's kind of fun to watch it all unfold.
Oh my gosh. I was really laughing today because there's all these like storylines coming out. I was like, I had visions of these things like 4 or 5 years ago. So it just feels so validating. Just on my sight's a little further in the future than I thought. I'm pulling it up. I'm ready. Do you want me to put this chart now?
Yeah, we could put up the chart because it's an interesting day that we're doing this on. We're doing it on the new moon today.
Oh yeah, I had my little ritual earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, good stuff. Yeah, what I have on the screen here is pretty much, it's not the exact, but it's close enough of when the new moon actually happened earlier this morning. So it kind of gives us a nice chart view with like the ascendant in Virgo and getting to kind of see what this energy that's, you know, new mooning out and unfolding over the next 28 days. There it is. And so, I guess we could just look at this and kind of see what kind of new moon this is. I mean, especially after, the beginning of May, which what I said in the newsletter was that this was a month of exposure and how these planets that we've got in the sky have kind of been fleshing out of Aries finally and getting more into Taurus as we got into May. And we started May with a full moon and we're going to end it with a full moon. So one of those once in a blue moon times. And the new moon here in the middle, what's really interesting about it is it's in the 9th house. So it's really, well, and I'll add more things. The ruler of the 9th house is Venus, which has kind of had its time a little bit in Gemini already. And it passed Uranus, which was kind of a nice introduction to planets hitting Uranus for the first time since the 1940s. It's going to be interesting when we watch more planets cross Uranus here in the next few days. So we might spend a little bit of time on these first few days going into this week because it's going to be pretty eye-opening and transforming. I mean, if you think about it, the last time any of these planets hit Uranus in Gemini, the world was really reorganizing itself, around Gemini type things. Radio was coming out at the time, and radar and other types of interesting technologies that even played into nuclear power in the coming years after that. So it's really, there was back then, it was like the first stirrings of computation, computers and whatnot. And what are we watching right now? AI is just creeping in, and now it's accelerating and accelerating, and we're just it's controlling our stock markets right now. I mean, pretty much whether you're on one side of the fence or another, there's AI data centers being built everywhere right now. There's people complaining about how much power it's drawing. And I mean, it's here, and it's dominating our economy. And, just this trip that Trump took to China, I mean, brought all sorts of business leaders there. And a lot of the talks were on AI and selling NVIDIA chips and things of that sort. So here we are 84 years later, and the architecture is showing itself again. And so, but this time I think the medium is more about, intelligence itself. So as we go through this new moon and right afterwards, and I'll kind of play it on the chart here as to, how this energy is going to kind of come in and introduce itself for the first time again, since, I mean, most people, well, anybody who's watching this or most people that are alive today have not felt this energy yet. So it's going to be kind of fun. So let's see here. Where do we want to go into? Yeah, I mean, like I said, Venus already walked into the room of Gemini. Okay. And so far, I mean, there hasn't been any planets there. And Venus is a very bright planet. So it kind of brought some light into the room a little bit. And what happens this week is that the ruler of the sign is going to start coming in. Daddy's home again.
Oh.
And then, yeah, hey, how's it going? And then the sun's going to come right behind it and bring some authority to the energy that's coming in. And again, the moment they step into the sign, they're going to conjunct Uranus. And so I'm really excited to see what happens this week. It's going to be interesting. Yeah. So
what is the day that you're specifically looking at the most on your radar?
Well, there's a pivot, and I don't know, that's a hard one, because over the next 7 to 10 days there's a few. Okay. I guess we could summarize it right now and then just dive in. So you could really think of today as the seed, this new moon, perfect example. We even had Vesta, the asteroid, enter Aries a couple of days ago. And so Aries is in the 8th house of this new moon chart. And so I don't have Vesta in this program here. This is kind of an older program. But what you're noticing here is a huge amount of 8th house energy. And the thing that stands out the most is we have Mars and Chiron together. And this is Mars's own sign. So this is a very powerful conjunction with the wounded healer. The wounds of our childhood, the wounds of our past. And Mars is conjunct, sitting here saying, hey, it's time to make some decisions here. And being in the 8th house of transformation, it's going to make people feel vulnerable. I would assume a lot of people are dealing with some energies of some deep wounds coming up from the past and having to make some decisions about bringing that to the forefront, right? The new moon itself's in the 9th house. And it's got Mercury there too. So it is about communicating and bringing these things to light, whether it's through, writing in your journal or going to somebody that you've got some sort of relationship dynamic with that you've got to figure out and work through. It could be any of these things. And if you really don't do it, or how you do it, it's going to set the stage for the next 28 days as far as how that's going to play out. And like I said, this is the exposure month. And so things are coming to light. So going back to the summary, I think the big pivot is going to be May 19th. All right. That's when Mars goes into Taurus. And that's going to really shift some energy. All right. And that's also about the time that Mercury kind of ignites. So that day is really a hinge of shifting energy from what we felt from the rest of early May to now. And then, gosh, I think the biggest thing is going to be, I think it was May 25th. We'll get there, but it's when Mars squares Pluto. And that's where things are going to get really intense towards the end of the month here. So let's talk a little bit more about the new moon, though. So, yeah, I have some notes here. Yeah, and the other thing about this new moon with K2 in the rising sign in Virgo, Virgo is that sign of service and help and, making things right and getting all your numbers straight and organizing. And with K2 there's a lot of disillusion of the self in the rising sign. And so a lot of this is kind of trying to get off the old energy, some of these things that we've been carrying for so long. Let's dissolve some of this energy and let's take it off of how we show up to life. And it's for self-service. It's Virgo rising. It's for you. And this has been a big theme about this year. It's this whole year is about self-development. This is, like, again, the craziest year of astrology that any of us is ever going to see. And everybody on some level is going through all sorts of stuff. And it could be themselves, or it could be family members. It could be who they're in relationships with. And it's throwing us all into a lot of tests to see how we project ourselves through others and see ourselves in the mirror of others. And so this new moon's going to be vulnerable. And, the other thing we have is Pluto right here in the 6th house, and it's retrograde now. And so that's a lot of deep restructuring of the daily work, 6th house energies and routines, our health, the systems that you live inside. So retrograde being internal first, and then it kind of shows up in the outer schedule. All right. So the plain meaning of this is that there is a sacred wound that's being actively worked on. Whether you are aware of this or not, it's happening. And the 8th house is kind of that hidden chamber. So with Saturn there, old struggles, old sufferings. Neptune, it might be hard to figure out what these things are still for people, but as this new moon plays out, it should start to expose itself, especially as these planets go into Gemini. So I'm going to move this ahead one day here. And the moment we go into tomorrow, you're already seeing the moon has passed over Uranus. So that's kind of like the moon planting this emotional seed in Gemini, bringing the emotions into communication, Gemini type qualities. And so it's really the first body other than Venus, a couple weeks ago, that's touching Uranus. And it's going to be this cascade of planetary touches to Uranus. And Uranus is, of course, the disruptor, the electrifier, the one that shocks. And so any of these social planets, personal planets that are going to touch Uranus over these next couple of days, collectively, personally, it's going to be entertaining for me, at least. I don't know for others.
Yeah, it's same.
So, usually, well, I'll just say it like this in summary. So before Mercury is going to speak anything here, and before the sun's going to come in and show it, okay, the moon's going to feel it first. All right. So whatever's going to flicker in tomorrow, all right, don't dismiss it. This is really the field, the resonant field out there rehearsing what the rest of the week is going to kind of start to say out loud. Now, again, right? Let's see, what time would this be happening? So yeah, as we get into the afternoon, Mercury is jumping into Gemini. So really the next day is when this kind of starts lighting up. So once the master of the house comes in, just consider everything's going to start accelerating even more than you're feeling it now. And Mercury, the nature of Mercury, it likes to try things. It likes to experiment. So if you're feeling hesitant, don't. Go for it. Use that Uranus rebellious energy. Say what you need to say. Communicate what you need to communicate. I mean, do it in a wholesome, holistic way. But don't let your feelings and don't let what you need to communicate stay within. So let's see here. So the next day, that is when Mars goes into Taurus. And, you know, Mars, after being in Aries, Mars in Taurus is like the warrior who's really stopped swinging and stopped breathing fire and is starting to build in this fixed earth sign, right? So it's got a slower fuse than it did in Aries, but it's going to be a longer burn. And it's going to be harder to move once you've committed. So Mars is a decision maker. Mars is a general. Mars likes to make decisions without emotion. So any action that's going to start happening once we get to the 19th is going to be more like placement. And so what you're going to do now, what you're going to decide, what action you're going to take is going to start compounding. And so once that happens and Mercury starts settling in to Gemini, you're going to have, because at this point, when Mercury's right around here, you can see that there's a square happening to the nodes. Well, at least to K2. This one's more of a trine. But with the outer planets, you can see here Mercury is now getting a trine from Pluto and a little bit from Neptune as a sextile. So there's a lot of outer planet energies that are, I'd like to say, tickling what's going on in Gemini right now. And as Uranus slowly gets closer to that 4 degree mark, that's going to be interesting in July. July's got a very amazing harmonious placement. We talked about it last time, where it makes this almost a Star of Bethlehem, a very rare configuration. So in the meantime, though, right now, all these personal planets are starting to kind of get that outer planet energy as they go into Gemini. So the Uranus conjunction is kind of like anything that touches Uranus is like a spark. You know, Uranus was discovered in, I think it was 1783. And when it was discovered, you know, the astrologers, you know, they go nuts. Oh, what are we going to do with this planet? What's this planet all about? What's the nature? And so they kind of looked at what was going on around that time. And, you know, one of the big things was, you know, lightning, electricity, Ben Franklin flying that kite. And so you could kind of think about that analogy as what's happening here coming in. I mean, with the Neptune sextile, there's a lot of imagination that's going to be tickling all of this mental, intellectual energy, you know, not just individually, but collectively. So the news next week is going to probably have a ton of new developments, new ideas, new inventions that are coming to light, coming to the public. And that Pluto trine it's all consequential. It's not fly-by-night stuff. Now, what's this going to come? It could be, you know, announcements, information leaks. I mean, we've been seeing this happen and it's been accelerating, but wait until next week. And it's not just next week. Again, this is going to keep rippling into summer and into, I mean, Uranus is going to be here for the next 8 years, 7-8 years. And so everything is going to have staying power as all these planets touch Uranus for the first time in 84 years. So the same day here that Mars goes into Taurus and Mercury's getting in Gemini, this is, you know, Mars making decisions about, you know, where to plant its feet and where it's going to start headed somewhere. And Mercury's going to be deciding what to say. Okay. So stay grounded. Don't fly off in your head and I should have said that a different way. And, oh, you know, I didn't know if it would all that went well. Hey, trust it. Whatever you had to say, whatever you're doing, it's what you're supposed to say. It's what you're supposed to be doing. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said it. You wouldn't have done it. So, again, like, what was the conversations going on in 1941? You know, it's about, well, first of all, right after Uranus went into Gemini, we had the attack on Pearl Harbor. And so there was a lot of conversations going on, especially about the fact that right beforehand, they didn't want to get involved in another world war, the US. And all of a sudden, everybody in the whole country did an about face and decided, we're going to war. And so the entire economy shifted. It was like a paradigm shift, war bonds. And within months, our economy was a war economy. And all the companies that used to make certain things were now making, you know, ammunition and airplanes and tanks and whatnot. So there is going to be a shift in collective mentality, not just in this country, but all over the world, about things that have been going on that we've been watching in the news and seeing. And so you go to the next day, and actually a couple days later, somewhere it's, you know, it's almost off of 1 degree. So you could go back to here and it's almost in there. So on the 20th is when the sun goes into Gemini. Okay. So the sun is kind of like on a mundane astrology level, like the collective consciousness, and it's walking through the doorway. The ruler's already there. And so this is kind of the cultural field catching up to what's kind of been going on inside. And so what you've been sensitized to with the moon going in, Mercury going in, the sun is the light. It's the luminary. It's bringing light to all sorts of stuff. A lot of things are going to start coming to light. And funny, what's been going on with UFO disclosure? You know, I did a video a few months ago on my channel, Pluto and Aquarius equals aliens.
We're about to launch some things next week.
Yeah. Well, and that movie, you know, all the conspiracy theorists say that the movies are what are preparing our consciousness for things to come, right? Oh, yeah. And so Steven Spielberg, and we all know who hired him to do this movie, is coming out with this disclosure movie. And I think it comes out on the 10th. So it is within the time that the sun is lighting things up in Gemini. And I think there was a news article that came out yesterday or the day before about somebody in the government mentioning that some more detail about how there is evidence of the government having at crash sites recovering 4 different types of alien entities. And I think it was like the reptilians, the Greys, Norse type beings, which I guess you could say were Syrian or Pleiadian.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. So it's coming out. It's just, you know.
Isn't this what did I read, that this is the Pleiadian stargate from the 16th to the 24th? I don't know what astrology that is, but
I mean, that gets into, I don't, it's, I mean, it is definitely relevant. And I know that the Pleiades are aligned somewhere. I just haven't been paying that much attention to it. But it's in the background for sure. You know, that is a lot of the ancient astrology that goes on is, you know, they call them fixed stars in Vedic astrology, which is really the backdrop to nakshatras and the lunar mansions and how real ancient astrology was practiced in, like, you know, 28-day cycles. And a nakshatra is, you know, there's 27 nakshatras. So there's 1 nakshatra per day. And they were always, each nakshatra is set against a constellation or a fixed star. So no, there is a lot of importance to it for sure. So sun-Uranus conjunctions are always revelation events. So Gemini is about information, data, communication, okay, language. It's a natural third house. So just think about what are third house themes. The local field, again, experimenting, analyzing, researching, trying things. So really, in 5 days, we've got 3 celestial objects crossing into Gemini. Right? So just to review here, the moon's going to feel it. Mercury's going to name it and start speaking it. And the sun is going to make all of this official. So anything that was really private up until now is now a public event.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's the exposure month.
Oh, I'm so
It's
excited.
happening.
This
Yeah.
is like the thing that I've been waiting for.
Okay, so, the big thing, is when we get a little bit further here. I'm just going to click on over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 25th. That is when Mars hits 5 degrees of Taurus, which will make it in an exact square to Pluto. And these are never fun. They're very challenging. So a part of you or the world that's been quietly accumulating any pressure from any of this stuff that's coming out, all this exposure that's happening, that's been quietly accumulating this pressure has got to move. Okay? It's got to move something, and it's probably going to be heavy because this is a retrograde Pluto. Pluto's going to be retrograde till October. So there's a lot of stirring up of deep underworld kind of stuff, subconscious, instinctual, survival type energy, power dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And so really kind of a lot of this buried power or pressure is going to become visible action at this point. So I would expect on the global stage things to get quite hot. I know we've been watching this whole Strait of Hormuz thing for several weeks. And, it obviously wasn't as hot as it was, back in March. But it's been building pressure. The markets have not really been reacting very much. You would think when you see 20%, of the world's oil going through here, not going through here anymore. And at the same time, Iran can't do anything with this other blockade, and they're dumping oil into the Gulf, and there's an environmental disaster just like sitting there, and nobody can do anything about it. And some action's going to start being taken. Squares are friction. It's that 90-degree angle. It's a hard angle. So I would say when you mix Taurus, which is where Mars is, a fixed Earth sign, and you mix it with Aquarius, which is fixed air, this is entrenched structures versus evolutionary pressure. Aquarius, that 11th house evolutionary energy, collective consciousness energy that Pluto's transforming for the next 20 years. And it all started. Pluto, remember, went into Aquarius November of 2024, right when Trump was elected. And everything changed.
Sure did.
So, the other thing is, look at this. The sun is at 4 degrees. So it's within a 1 degree arc entrining Pluto at the same time. So that's a little bit of grace to all that pressure. It doesn't make it any easier, but it's making things inevitable in like a productive direction. It's not going to just dissolve into chaos. So there is movement forward, even though it's going to seem a little bit explosive.
Well,
I don't know if anybody's been... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not opening up the news until I see a single arrest in America. So until I see progress.
Those are coming, and they're starting. You know, they just I think they just arrested Jill Biden's former husband for murder.
Oh.
I think they did put out an arrest warrant for James Comey. So, and you know, Katesh Patel, or whatever his name is, the head of the FBI, he's definitely got these little hints that he keeps dropping about this grand conspiracy that is being collected, and we're walking into exposure. So I'm interested to see what they've been working on this whole time. I have ideas. I have a pretty good idea of what it's all going to be about. So we'll see. Yeah. So, you know, the square is going to force things. The trine's going to help this flow, this Sun-Pluto flow. But they're, you know, this is all stuff firing at the same target on the same day. And so it's a lot of redirecting of energy at that point too, you know, because once action starts happening, things just start moving around, and you got to kind of find out where things are going to land and how things are going to play out. So it's not a question of whether stuff is moving. It's whether you're going to be standing in the way of it, all right, or you're going to be riding the wave. So that's kind of the rest of May. So May just ends in a big show. And really, as we get into June's going to be a lot of, it's going to be a lot quieter, actually. June's going to be one of the quieter months of this year until we get to the end. So, you know, that full moon at the end of May, it's in Sagittarius. And so a lot about beliefs, you know, religion might get ignited a little bit. Again, I keep thinking about, you know, disclosure and things of this sort.
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah. So it's not that when we go into June that everything's going to be quiet, right? So there's really no big major planet ignitions until really the end of June. So again, it's integration time. It's going to be, okay, what just happened at the end of May? What got exposed? What actions were taken? And let's integrate this stuff. You know, we got to metabolize this stuff on a body level, on an emotional level, all that exposure that cascaded. And so another thing about all of this, you know, you have Neptune just sextiling all this energy. Uranus, I mean, it's within 2 degrees. The sun's going to go right through that sextile. Mercury went through that sextile. So Neptune's about discernment, seeing through the fog. And if you don't, Neptune can be delusional. It can even be hallucinating. So, yeah. So, I mean, you know, here's a good analogy. Like, so after all this lightning, and we get, you know, whatever you want, thunderstorms, rain, okay? After rain comes, you know, there's some growing that happens. We're in spring. Stuff is going to start poking through the surface. What came out of this? What did we plant? And so again, you know, June isn't going to be like an empty period. It's going to be really like revealing to you what was planted in you. So yeah, at the end of June, though, the sky lights up again, and July is full of fireworks, no pun intended. I think we talked about that last time, didn't we?
Yeah,
what
we
happens on
definitely
July
did.
4th?
Specifically, yes. Let's talk about it again.
Yeah, so July 4th. Let's just move there.
I'm like, should I be abroad?
It is not letting me move it, so I'm just going to cruise over there. There we go. So July 4th is the Mars-Uranus conjunction. Just so happens to be on the 250th anniversary of this country's birth. And as Uranus takes 8 years to go through a sign, Mars takes about 2 months. And it goes around the sun about every 2 years. So we're going to have about 4 Uranus-Mars conjunctions before Uranus leaves Gemini. And I kind of said this before, if you go back every 84 years, which is the time it takes for Uranus to go around the sun, the last time was in the 1940s. The time before that was the 1860s, which is when we had the Civil War. And then you go back another 84 years and you go back to the birth of this country. And so, and just as a side note, Pluto takes 265 years to go around the sun. And so the last time it was where it is in Aquarius was in 1776. And so this country, its birth chart, is going to have its Pluto return this year. And, there's not a lot of empires out there that, last over 200 years. So we're doing pretty good. But every time Uranus went into Gemini, there was an existential crisis up for this country, right? We had to fight for our freedom the first time. The second time, we had internal divisions about what independence and freedom and rights were. And then the time in the 1940s, it was an external threat. So the first time it was kind of an external threat, then it was an internal, then an external. This time, we might get both. And I'm not saying it's going to happen this summer, but we're definitely going to see some symptoms. And so I did a presentation to a place in town here and went into some detailed research about the Mars-Uranus conjunctions, the 4 that happen in each one of those eras. And there are some major moves and major things that happen that we learn when we go into elementary school and high school. So I'm excited, actually. I'm excited.
Yeah,
to see what happens. I know aren't we going to have a UFC fight on the White House lawn? Didn't we hear about that?
I mean, I'm not entirely sure what's even real anymore. And honestly, I'm fine with that. But I would actually be interested in watching my first UFC fight if it involves the right people.
Yeah, it kind of reminds you of that movie, Idiocracy, which
oh my gosh, I finally watched that. That was awful.
Right? But I mean, how weirdly parallel.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Some of the stuff in
That's
there.
How I feel. Have you guys tried water? I'll make a mini course.
Yeah, make a mini course for that, for sure. People forget, especially these days.
Yes. And honestly, in this time and this energy, more than ever, drink more water. We are all processing and moving at rapid rate speeds that we're not used to. Drink more water than you're used to. Period.
Sure.
The end. I'll stop being a mom now.
There we go. On this chart here, I kind of show these elements. We've talked a lot about the fact that the outer planets have been in Pisces for over 23 years, and they all have left now. And there was a lot of water and earth energy for a long time with outer planets. And now we're in a lot of fire and air. And as you can see, like I just went back to like May. Let me go back a couple of days here. So you can see down here the elements, and even the modes, the different signs, cardinal signs, fixed signs, mutable signs. And you can watch as the days go on here, the shifting of those energies, that air, just in one day, right? Going into tomorrow, boom. And then as we keep going, the energy shifts quite a bit.
Wow.
You know, so you can see the biggest thing I'm seeing here is there's less and less fixed energy as we evolve into June. And there is more fire. There's way more air. So again, back to acceleration, communication, data, networks. You know, I do expect there to be some big things happening with AI and some announcements going into next week.
Yeah, I've been watching. There's a guy, oh, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's been trying to get a meeting with one of the big companies for installing empathy into AI. It's like interesting. I forget his name's Scott.
It's funny because you would think that there's enough empathy in AI already, to the point where somebody committed suicide because ChatGPT was so empathetic for their situation that they thought that they should do it. So
that seems like
this is the thing. Like, AI is as good as who programs it, and you know, being in technology, there's different AIs that have, you know, different programmers with different agendas, and ChatGPT is kind of on the downward spiral if you know are following any of this technology, and it is because of the overwhelming empathy. And I brought this up a lot in my talk, you know, this suicidal empathy. I think somebody just came out with a book on suicidal empathy, where you're so empathetic towards other people. You don't want to offend them. You don't, you know, you want to give them a safe space. You want to provide a padded room for these people, you know, to the degree that it takes away your own power. You almost commit suicide, because you're not able to be you. You're not able to live your own life because, you know, you have to make a safe space for everybody around you. You can't offend anybody. You know, everybody gets a trophy. Now, this was the outer planets and water signs for 23 years in Pisces. You know, don't put red marks on your kids' paper. They might get their feelings hurt. And I think you can see a shift in energy out there with all this fire energy now with the outer planets. Nobody's going to put up with this stuff anymore. And, you know, we can get in. I'm not of any sort of political affiliation at all, but you can see the party of empathy and compassion, so-called empathy and compassion, having its own existential crisis. And you know, back to exposure, people who claim to be compassionate and nonviolent and whatnot, the way that they're reacting to things in the world is pretty ironic. The way they're reacting, out of action and out of words. So those times are over, for better or worse. So yeah, crazy times.
Oh yeah, I feel like every month we meet back here, we're gonna be like, well, we should just call it "I told you so."
Oh, totally. Yeah. So I guess, you know, unless, I don't know if anybody's in the chat or asking any questions or anything like that, but, you know, again, we kind of just have this arc starting today of like that, the seed, this whisper that comes the next day, you know, a vessel being held by Venus in Cancer. You have this hinge that shifts when Mars goes into Taurus. The witness kind of energy when the sun enters Gemini. And then that crack in all of it from the pressure with the Mars-Pluto square. And then we get this time to breathe in June, right? And integrate. And then the foreshadowing by the time we get to the end of June.
I'm just marking a red square on the 25th, just in case.
Just in case.
Just mental.
Was there anybody in the chat?
There's definitely people in the chat, but there's no questions as of right
Okay,
now.
fair enough.
Yeah.
I did think about, a lot of people have been asking me about the hantavirus.
I don't know anything about it. I have not been on there.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for people who don't know, like Julie, there has been a discovery of the hantavirus aboard a ship that had left, I think it was Argentina. And it was some variant called the Andes variant, which is the only variant that's human to human transmission. And so it kind of took its time, but astrologically, we can go back in time. Here, let me go back. So say we're coming out of March, and if if anybody goes into any in-depth article about the timeline of how this all kind of transpired, astrologically, if you go into the past, there's always an interaction with Mars and Saturn when it comes to pandemics or plagues or sickness or epidemics or things like that. And so here we have, going into April, I'll just go by weeks here. The moment that we get into April, Mars and Saturn are having a conjunction in Mars' sign. And so this was about the time, and I could be off a little bit, but this was about the time when these announcements were coming out that 3 people had died, that they confirmed it was a hantavirus case. And trying to remember, as the separation started occurring, you started hearing about cases happening in different countries. Now, I don't know how this is going to play out. You could go back to, let's go back to 2020. It's going to take me there. Yes. Okay. So if you go back into January of 2020, there was a ton of planets in Capricorn. And Mars was sitting here in Sagittarius just cruising on in. But the big thing was we had this very rare Pluto and Saturn conjunction along with Jupiter. It was a whole grand conjunction of planets that was talked about in astrology conferences in the 90s. And everybody was like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen at the beginning of 2020? And if you kind of play out the way we all know how 2020 played out, like just in January, it was just whispers of it, right? Something's going on in China. And then you keep kind of moving the needle week by week, and Mars is just creeping in. I mean, we even have K2 in here. K2 is always about unknown illnesses in medical astrology. We don't know what it is. And K2 is bacteria, Rahu is poison. Okay, so it's not necessarily bacteria, but it's definitely wasn't poison. Okay, so you have some pretty big hitters in Capricorn. And as we kind of moved into February, that's when Mars entered the frame. And so it's starting to come into conjunction with these bigger players. And of course, like I said, Mars and Saturn, they always kind of bring this stuff up. And by the time we start getting into March, and this conjunction's coming into play here, this is when they started talking about a global pandemic was declared. We're going to, call it a national emergency. We're going to free up $2 trillion. I mean, all this huge historic stuff started happening. And, as we got, I think, closer to the actual conjunction was when they started mentioning, and this is throughout the pandemic, anytime there was an interaction between Mars and Saturn, whether it was a square or an opposition, that's usually when, these big, nasty, death totals and statistics came out, or one of the variants had come out. So, so this time around, we go back to, just go to July. Does it even, this is why I don't use this program very much. So as we get into this summer, and Mars can get to a point, I forget where it's going to happen. Start getting into September, and Mars is debilitated in Cancer. Okay. And Jupiter will have left Cancer, which is where it was exalted. We were getting some protection from Jupiter for the last year, and that protection ends at the end of June. And so when we get towards this Saturn-Mars square, we might be seeing more about, kind of how this is going to play out, to what degree this hantavirus thing is going to play out. So yeah, had a lot of questions about that one.
Got it. That one wasn't even on my radar. I was like mostly looking for justice.
Justice is Libra. Justice and social justice, harmony, the scales, that's Libra. That comes a lot later.
I feel like I've been so patient.
We've all been patient. Yeah, you could look at all the memes on social media, and it's like, but what about the Epstein files? But what about
single one?
Every single one. Yeah, I get it. It all, as far as I believe, all of this is going to get exposed. Everything's going to get exposed. But you can get into the metaphysical aspects. You can talk to the ones that channel, the psychics, the the prophetics. We're in that age. It's here. The next 12 months, I mean, it's all going to be laid out there, one way or the other. The government's going to try to do its job. Okay, we definitely been involved with aliens and UFOs, but they're going to tightly control it. That little bit that they put out was probably 5-10% of it. You could take what these others talk about how the Galactic Federation, or whatever you want to call these groups that are out there, we're basically like, hey, your time is up. You either say it or we're going to say it. You disclose it. So there's obviously a controlled disclosure happening. Slow. They don't want to cause a bunch of chaos, a bunch of, people freaking out. But at the same time, they're not going to give it all up. And at some point, that's my belief too, that, somebody's going to come down from up above and just kind of make it, hey, this is it. Here we are. And I do believe that and I do believe it's going to be another level of disclosure about Earth's history, humans' true history. And it's going to be undeniable. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm working on a paper about that right now. I've got some stories to tell.
Okay. That'll
be on our exclusive membership platform for sure, but that'll probably come out in the next month. So I have got,
Beautiful.
It's a doozy. Then the history of how we got fucked is what we're calling it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't hold back on the title.
Yeah. Well, half of our stuff is do your fucking work. So I think we're like,
true.
Come on, guys, catch up. We got cooler shit to do.
True. Yeah, we're not in the age of offending people anymore, right? Or not trying to not offend people anymore.
It's good. And we're in a different line here. Now we have new things to not offend, because now it's your responsibility to take care of your triggers. Let's establish that. Now we can move on, because we've got a lot more. You guys are not cool with women or men or transgender or people sharing bathroom sports, then you're going to have to get really cool really quickly about some aliens. And
find out what you're truly made of and what your true potential is. This is a lot of what I talk about, this bifurcation of people who are going to resist, not care, be completely involved in their own superficial material lives. AI is going to save us. AI, it's going to help us extend our life. It's going to give us superhuman capabilities, and there's some that are going to go down that road. But then with the information that's coming out, it's no, you have all the potential to be all that you think you are and beyond your imagination, the powers that you have in your DNA that have been latent for thousands of years. I mean, watch and see what's been going on with the Earth and the sun. I mean, I think I've brought up Stefan Burns, great guy to watch on YouTube. The volcanoes, the earthquakes, there's like several asteroids that, like, there's like 3 of them that are coming right within our orbit with the moon, like within that orbit. I mean, just all sorts of really interesting celestial energies that trigger all sorts of resonant fields. And we just had the Mercury Cazimi, and we just had some crazy coronal mass ejections and sunspots just from that. And it was like instantaneous the moment it happened. So I enjoy watching Stefan Burns and all the stuff that he brings up about the Schumann resonance and where these earthquakes are happening, where these volcanoes are happening. It's amazing. The Earth is definitely going through some sort of labor pains. There's all these predictions about the worst El Nino in like history, for hundreds of years coming this summer and into the fall. Like, the Earth is definitely preparing an energetic shift, and that's what has to happen before we have ours.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting works out there about all of it.
Yeah.
And now we just wait and see. But in the meantime, we do our work because we're preparing for. Just because things are going to go into chaos or destruction doesn't mean that you can't find yourself, find community, find a support system, and also hold on tight. And that's what what our shows are here for, is to do these lives so that you can come watch with us live as we watch what's going to happen. And we talk about it in real time.
No, I agree.
So if anyone has questions about even topics with dates, those are also questions you can ask.
Yeah, I do feel like community is hugely important. I don't know what's going to happen economically, but it's definitely, things are going to happen. The shifting in the finance systems are going to happen. And supply chain issues are going to happen. There's geopolitical shifting. Everybody's racing for resources right now. It's going to be more about not a global economy and a global world. It's going to be more of a regional world at a certain point. And everybody's shifting, whose team they're on, and on a individual level. Yeah. Make friends in your neighborhoods, get more involved in your communities. And work on yourself. I mean, you're a flight attendant. Who do you put the oxygen mask on first, you or your kid?
Yourself.
That's right. So take care of yourself. Stay grounded. What?
You can't. It's a hard one for people, but you can't fill from an empty cup, and you for sure can't help people when you don't have air.
Exactly. And we're coming into a lot of air.
Yeah, we really are. And we're building all the structures and support systems that we can in here. And there is a really cool resource guide on our Patreon, actually. It has like probably 250 local resources here in Salt Lake City of everything you could possibly think of, from farmers markets to different communities and networking things. So if you feel free to check that out, it's completely free to everyone. And I'm hoping to get them based on city and state. So if you have a reference sheet like this and you also want to donate it to the Academy for State, we would love to have it, because the more we put our efforts together, the more we can grow and together and individually.
Oh yeah. This is all Pluto and Aquarius, that we have to go this way. It is about these local networks. It's all about that as we move into these next few years, for sure.
Yeah. Small community. Oh, well, awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. And we will see you next month, I can't wait.
Next month will be crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be a good one
And
next month.
yeah, I'm actually really excited to recap the next 2 weeks we're about to live. That'll be very interesting for sure. As always, yes, check out the resonance paper. You can get it on Tom's website, metaphysical.
You got about another week before I ship it. So sign up before then so you can get it in your mailbox.
Yes. And you guys will not regret it. It is in-depth, comprehensive. It talks about the Schumann resonance, you get it.
I have a resonance index. It's a resonance index. Yeah.
Resonance index.
3 point. Yeah. Three variable point scoring system. So you kind of know what kind of energy you're going to be dealing with for that.
It's that if you are doing any business or any sort of personal life around any sort of astrology, this is the report for you. Big meetings, get this report. And then we'll be back next month to cover it. And if you guys are as lucky as enough to me to have a metaphysical advisor on your side, you also can have a metaphysical advisor on your side by booking an appointment with Tom. And you can find his information down below. And we will see you guys next month. Thank you for watching. And thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. We bridge the gap between what the world often keeps separate, logic and light, and spirit and science. We welcome everyone to come as you are and invite you to become the hero you want to become through educational tools and community connection. We offer tools, teachings, and community to help you remember who you are. This includes live shows, workshops, nutrition and wellness, and exclusive member perks. Logic leads us, light guides us, community connects us. Check out our TV Digest channel guide on All TV. Catch your favorite show, live stream, or find a new favorite show to add to your notifications. We are always adding new standalone episodes and series. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. Find us online on our website and all major social media platforms at Academy of Logic and Light. Click the link in bio to join our community. We hope to see you again soon, either here or on your hero's journey.